Okay, welcome back everyone after that very short break. I hope we all enjoyed that and that we also felt the music while we were waiting. Now currently we have 95 participants. I feel like some of them left because of the break. So while waiting for them, let's ask everyone some highlights from TM Juim's presentation. Let us ask April Marie D. Gonzalez. Miss April, what did you learn or love about Toastmaster Juim's session?
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss April.
Okay. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, Miss
Yes.
April.
Okay. First of all, I love his enthusiasm. It's very infectious, actually. Even if it were online, it's so infectious that you have to smile when he says when he's being humorous. And of course, since I am a bit on the healthy side, I do appreciate the tips that he has given. Should I go for another job interview, but I doubt at the age that I am now. But I do appreciate it in case I do go to events and other social gatherings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss April. I also loved how TM Jim was very enthusiastic and smiling all throughout his session, although there were technical problems. Thank you so much, Miss April. And thank you for everyone for listening and being with us in the first session. And I hope you will keep this in mind because at this point we will welcome another seasoned speaker who will teach us about persuading with power. Our speaker is a graduate cum laude from Colegio San Agustin of Bacolod, and of course, he is also a top 3 during the August 2014 licensure examination for teachers. He is a former training and development in charge of an advertising company. He joined Barangay Toastmasters Club in 2017. While in those years, he won the National Impromptu Speaking competition, and there he was a champion. He's also a delegate of South Korea during the year 2014. He is a team leader in the Philippine delegation to India back when it was 2018, and now he is currently a senior high school and college arts, sciences, and education of Colegio San Agustin Bacolod faculty member. Please help me welcome our trainer, Toastmaster Karl Diamante. A round of applause, please.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Toastmaster Esther. May I request everyone to please turn on their cameras? Because I used to be a training and development in charge, and I would actually be the one conducting the interviews at job fairs. If you do not show up, I will not hire you. That's how it works. So I would like to request again, everyone, to please turn on your cameras. I know that you are wearing your business attires and you are very beautiful. Yes, we have Sophia. Represent Sophia. Adonis, shout out to Adonis. Who else? I want to see everyone. I want to call you by your name. Have you seen that movie? It's really cute. We have Kay Bailoses. Welcome to the show. Who else? We want to see everyone. We have Janen Dukay. Hello. Shout out nga pala. How about the others? We will not start unless we can see your beautiful faces. Because I want you to think of this as an actual interview. I would conduct job fairs. I would go to different schools and different locations, and I would screen the applicants. One look, and I knew, iba na. Ay, laing gali. Ano na gani? Parokya ni Edgar, siyang kanta. Okay, we have Jai Alba. Hello, how are you? I love your dress. Namati ka giguro sa talk ni Toastmaster Juim. Kagin apply mo dayon. Okay, so amo lang yaton ng mga ma-on sang camera. O sige, subong lang nga daan mga ga-on camera, crush ko na sila. Yes, sila na nga ako ng mga lodi. Maureen, I love you so much because you showed your face. Sa mga wala nag-on sa camera, even though they have the capability to do it. Mayara kami sang linyada sa mga manok hiwit sa amon nga pamilya. So, by the power vested upon me by the elder gods, I hex your job application. Naman mo job application, if you do not show your face, even though you are able to, and you have all the capability, gisi-on ko ni siya. That is your job application. If you have the capability, but you do not use it. Kikanugon, if we do not use our capability, it is our responsibility if we have the capability. O, diba? Wow! Hi, Harold. I missed you from yesterday. Yes, very funny. Rod, patawad. Pagkat ako'y makasalanan. Pelmer, we have Daniela, we have Richie, we have Anne Monique, we have Philip. Ray Cantos, all the way from USA. Hello, how are you? We have Edward, who is loading ang iyang screen. And we have Jason. Hello, everyone. So, today we are going to talk about influence. Not being a bad influence, but how to persuade people. Tudloan ta kamo sa mga techniques because I am also a manog into. Anyway, persuader gali in English. All right. So allow me to share my screen. Hindi tayo manog into in a bad way. We persuade people to do good things. That's how we should think about it. So allow me to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen and hear me? Am I edible?
Toastmaster Karl.
Yeah,
Very
am I
edible.
Oh, very edible. Thank you, Toastmaster Esther. So, I will teach you how to persuade people. By the way, I have 2 monitors, and if you turn off your camera, I will know. And if this is your job application, I will also rip it apart. Charot lang. All right. So, we are going to talk about influence. Let's start with an activity. 80% of success is just showing up. So to everyone who has showed up today and shown their faces, you have made it through the first screening process. Congratulations. You are now in the screen group. Let us try and do this. What is your USP? USP stands for unique selling proposition. What do you have that everyone needs that only you have? So that's what we're going to try and do. The USP is the combination of what people want, customers or employers or whatever it may be, what you do well and what competitors do well. It's only something that you have that they don't have. So I want you to try and do the following and send it in the chat box. Why you? Why should I hire you? I used to be the training and development in charge. So I want you to answer the following. I am, you state your name, and I can offer blank for your specific target market and who want to do what. What do you want them to do? What value do you offer to them? Unlike the alternative, you will say your key differentiator. What makes you unique? And why should I choose you instead of everybody else who is just as competent as you? So allow me to give you a sample, and I want you to send it in the chat box. Okay, I am a senior high school instructor, so I would like to share what my USP is. I am Karl Laurenz Diamante, and I can offer excellent mathematics teaching. For senior high school students who want to pursue science, technology, engineering, and mathematics courses. Unlike other math educators, I am witty and relatable. And I also topped the licensure examination for teachers. With 75,000 applicants, I was top 3. And I also have led several organizations. So that is what sets me apart from every other math teacher out there. Now, I want you to send in the chat box in this format. Why you? If you want to be a banker, you write here, I can offer something related to banking. If you want to be a flight attendant, you write here something related to being a flight attendant. If you want to be a business owner or a business manager, what do you have that nobody else has? What is your USP, unique selling proposition? All right. Let's check here. Oh, we have Toastmaster Ether. I would like for you to deliver this one, and I will be your interviewer. I will listen to you. Go.
Hi, I am Ether Kudina, and I can offer my beauty to you who wants me. Unlike them, I am very myself. So thank you.
Wow. Are you applying for the job of a beauty contestant? It's almost a job in a way, yes. How about the others? I would like to hear from you. What makes you unique? Why should I choose you? Why should people prefer you out of all of the applicants? All right, I'll give you some time to think about that. By the way, Toastmaster Ether, I noticed that after the break, I was the replacement. Does that make me a panakip butas? Am I just the boy best friend you go to after you break up?
Depends on you, Toastmaster Karl.
Katatapos lang ng break, tapos diretso ka sa akin. Am I the boy best friend in this scenario? All right, sige. Send it in the chat box, everyone. I want to hear your uniqueness. Okay. Oh, may sa mga nag-off some camera, even though they have the capability to. Again, I curse your application. I have a lot of paper here. Yes. Sige, send in the chat. Let's see. How about the others? Or, if you want to turn on your microphone, maybe you can convince us verbally. Sige, send in the chat. I'll give you a few. One of the advantages of being a Toastmaster is you are trained to speak impromptu. So even though you were not told that something like this would be happening, you can immediately think of something. While waiting for the others, I would like to recommend or ask Toastmaster Melinda, would you like to tell us your USP while waiting for the others? Oh, impromptu. Tia Melinda, would you like to share your USP? Toastmaster Melinda, you are muted.
Actually, I was out in the room when, okay, but I am Melinda and I can offer you my competence in teaching English.
Or what's your target market, Toastmaster Melinda?
English in your university. And unlike other English instructors, I have a special training in communication and leadership from Toastmasters International. And I was one of the speech champions in the various area and division levels.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Melinda. Oh, by the way, there is a difference, everyone, between a Toastmaster and a distinguished Toastmaster. The distinguished Toastmaster is the highest rank. Mga black belt Toastmasters ni sila.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the others, okay, we have here, oh, she also loves it, Toastmaster Ether. Why may masense ang USP? So you are not unique? I believe that everyone is unique. If you would like to send your USP, please send it in the chat and we can read it later. Again, I would like for everyone to participate. Send it in the chat. I will read it later. All right. So we don't have time if we have to wait for others. Okay. So let's talk about persuasion. What is persuasion for you? Send it in the chat. 1, 2, 3, go. What is persuasion in 1 word or 2 words or 3 words? For you, what is persuasion? Yes. Okay, we have Daniela here saying convincing, Dean saying convincing, Ether saying harana. Oh, that's something else. What about the others? What is persuasion for you? Persuasion is like convincing. It is to express, correct. What else? The ability to make a person change his or her actions, strategy, and influence. Mapapa-yes ka, sabi ni Toastmaster Esther. Distinguished Toastmaster Esther. Yes, persuasion is very much like that because it is to convince people to do or think something. That's what we mean by persuasion. It is an attempt to make people behave in some way. So if you want me to behave, you better persuade me. Oh, diba? Something like that. All right. So let's talk about some principles of persuasion. And I promise you, you have experienced this in your real life. You just don't know it yet. The first is social proof. Allow me to ask you this one. Sino ang nabudol sa Shopee or Lazada? Nagbakal ka lang, hindi mo man lang kailangan. Kada mo sa review, ay kanami, sinimbal ako. Sino, ano yung naging bakal nga nabudol ka mo? Send it in the chat box. Ano yung bakal nyo nga nabudol ka mo man? Last time, I bought an external hard drive nga China. Barato hon. Ang ending, wala gagana. Because it's so cheap and there are a lot of reviews. But it's actually their employees who are reviewing the product. So that's why it has such high reviews. Okay. Yes. What did you buy from Shopee or Lazada? Nga nabudol ka gidya. Nainto ako. I thought it was the one, but it's not. So that's social proof. We tend to listen to what everyone else is saying. I'll give you an example. There used to be a commercial for the environment wherein there was a Native American who was rowing the canoe. And then while the canoe was rowing, he could see littering. So people were throwing trash in the river and people were throwing trash on the side of the riverbank. And then there were people throwing things everywhere. And then the Native American, you would see the camera pan up to his face or get close to his face, and you would see a single tear going down his face. Did you think it was effective? It actually had the opposite effect. Why? Because the commercial showed that everyone else is throwing their trash. So why should I be different from everyone else? It actually had the reverse effect. If you want it to be effective, you show a commercial of people throwing trash in a very clean environment where nobody else is throwing garbage. It's just you. You are the problem. That's how we use social proof. Okay, so social proof, we are easily influenced by other people's opinions, especially on review pages. Some of you may have watched a movie, but when you saw the review, it changed your opinion because other people say it's a bad movie or it's not that good. So we tend to change our opinion based on what other people say. That's called the principle of social proof. Correct mo na siya? Ay kabongga. Well, let's try another one. The next principle, reciprocity. Yes, mangkot ko sa inyo. If I give you 500 pesos through GCash because you are my friend, would you feel the urge to, I feel indebted, I have to give something back, something like that? When somebody does something for you, you tend to want to do something back for that person. That's called reciprocity. If, for example, there is this person na doon nag-struggle siya, buligi siya, give that person aid, and in the future, you will be surprised. They will more likely be convinced when you say something of them because they feel indebted to you. Sana all may like back, sabi ni Toastmaster Ethos. Yes, that's called reciprocity. Okay? If you do something for others, they tend to want to do something back for you. All right. Authority. Sometimes we listen to people not because they are legitimate authorities, but because they are convincing enough to say that they are an authority. I'll give you an example. Have you heard of the Milgram experiment? Raise your hand if you've heard of the Milgram experiment. The Milgram experiment was an experiment that was conducted on obedience. So there were two people. One was an actor and the other one was a legitimate person. And then they would be assigned as a teacher or a learner. Now what the teacher would do is, it was framed as a memory test. If the learner would get it wrong, they would administer electrical shocks, okay? And the voltage would increase the more they got the questions wrong. There was a point in time wherein on the other side of the room, the person was screaming, let me out, let me out. And then the person would look to the person in a lab coat. They were not even established as a scientist. They would say that person is screaming. He said, yes, but the experiment has to continue. You know what the people did? They continued with the experiment, even though they believed the other person on the other room, which had a heart condition, was being tortured. But they did it anyway, because the person was wearing a lab coat. And if they asked the person, who would be responsible for this person? It would be the person in the lab coat. And you know what they did? Even though they knew it was hurting that person, although of course it was just an act, they continued anyway. So that has a lot of implications. We tend to follow people with authority. That also has a lot of bad implications. So I hope we follow the correct authority. We tend to listen to people like that. The other principle of persuasion is called scarcity. Let me tell you, have you ever seen ang mga sales from Shopee or Lazada na only for this particular hour? Daso nagpulaw kaya imo ya. Hasta alas 4 sang aga. Because you thought, na this is a great deal. Because it's only for this particular hour. In fact, you don't actually need it. But because you thought it was scarce and you have to wait for another month, you have to buy it. We tend to prefer things, or we tend to be persuaded by things we think are going to run out, are lacking, are going to be unavailable in the next few days. If you've seen hotels, their websites, you would see that this deal expires in 3 days. Or 75 other people are looking at this booking. It wants to convince you that you are running out of time and you have to buy this product. Where in fact, the scarcity is not really an issue. It's whether or not you need it. And apparently, people get convinced when they think something is scarce. The next principle is likability. Would you hire someone who you do not like? When they come into the room, they are very arrogant. They tend to talk all about themselves. They do not talk about what they contributed to their previous company. They have unkempt hair, or their uniform is not well ironed. We tend to like people who are similar to us. There was a study conducted wherein there was a homeless person, an actor, who would like to ask for money. Guess what? People would not give the person money. But you dress the same actor in business attire, and they are at the bottom of a flight of stairs, and they're asking for money. People gave money to that person because they believed that that person was similar to them. Maybe he's just down on his luck. Maybe he's wearing this suit, so he must be similar to us. We tend to like people based on how much we are similar to them. We vibe with our friends because we have similar interests. Namiyang kita fashion, namiyang kita K-pop. We all watch K-dramas. All of my friends watch K-dramas, something like that. You tend to like the person because you have some form of connection to them. Another way to increase your likability is to genuinely compliment that person. I love your dress. Toastmaster Rafi, I love your background. I love your dogs as well, Toastmaster Rafi. Toastmaster Esther, you always look so dignified. When you give genuine compliments, because people can fish it out if you're being insincere, they will be more likely to be persuaded by you. Another pro tip, if you want to be likable, have a sense of humor. Yes, it's a difficult skill to master, but you have to try at least. The next is commitment and consistency. We tend to be persuaded by people which we have already committed to. You ask that person, will you go with me to this concert? I really need a friend to come with me. And they say yes. The day arrives and they have a prior commitment. But you said you promised me. And because they have commitment, they tend to stick to that commitment. That is called commitment and consistency. When people say they will do something, they tend to do it because they have committed. That's commitment and consistency. We have to use these principles as best as we can to persuade people in a good way. Also, we have unity. We tend to be persuaded by people we believe is one of us. For example, if I talk about my achievements and all this and all that, that's not going to come across as being relatable. But if, for example, I am just like you, who was also in a Zoom meeting before, I actually was calling my crush that time. Well, nothing came of it because I went to the CR. I was not able to turn off the microphone. And then my crush heard everything that was happening there. If I talk about why I'm better than everyone else, that won't make me one of you. But if I make myself someone relatable, someone who has the same struggles as you, that would make us have a sense of unity. You have a bigger chance to listen to people who are part of your group, part of your world. That's unity. If, for example, may a kaso of abuse in the United States, it's not so much of a big deal to us. But if Pinoy na nagani ang naabuso overseas, it's a big deal for us because that's one of us. Si Heidelin Diaz, when she won that gold medal, we thought it was our victory because we are Filipinos. We tend to be persuaded by people we believe are one of us. So that's unity. So those are the 7 principles of persuasion. If you apply these things to your life, I believe that you will become a better persuader because you know where to start. The next is we're going to talk about the theories of persuasion. Now, I'm not going to deal so much on the empty theories or what it means. I'm going to talk about practical things, like how could you use this? The first theory is called social judgment theory. According to social judgment theory, we are on several latitudes. So we could be on a latitude of rejection, a latitude of non-commitment, or a latitude of acceptance. How many of you have played Super Mario? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you played Super Mario before on the family computer, or perhaps on your phone. We have Nintendo games on our phones now. What is the objective? The ultimate objective is to move from the left to the right, correct? That's the ultimate objective. In social judgment theory, if you want to persuade people, you have to move them from the latitude of rejection or non-commitment to the latitude of acceptance. But if you want to convince them, you have to first know, are they strongly going to reject me because of these reasons? Or are they just non-committed? Or is it on their latitude of acceptance? For example, if you are going to talk to people about learning the ukulele, if those people are musically inclined, that's already on their latitude of acceptance. And if you tell them you have to learn the ukulele because of these benefits, they are more likely to accept your reasoning. But if that person has poor hand-eye coordination, or they are not very well linked to the musical world, they are more likely to have a larger latitude of rejection. They are more likely to reject you. In other words, you have to change the way you frame your message based on how you perceive that person is. Are they on the latitude of rejection, non-commitment, or acceptance? You change your messaging based on your audience. Because there is the involvement of ego. So this is ego from Ratatouille. Are you familiar with Ratatouille? Raise your hand there. Or give me a heart emoji if you love that movie. Yes, I love that movie. But I am quite concerned na may ilaga sa kusina. I am not sure if that's a good restaurant, if they have a lot of mice. But anyway, if the person is more ego involved, in other words, if it is closer to their latitude of rejection, it actually increases the latitude of rejection. They are more likely to reject you the farther they are to the right, because they believe that it's not really for them. Try to convince a left-handed person to be right-handed. I dare you. It will be on their latitude of rejection. But if you perhaps convince them another kind of strategy or another alternative that is closer to that, Like, for example, okay, you may be left-handed, but you may try to learn a musical instrument with your right hand. Maybe you could try to do that. Maybe you could try to use the remote with your right hand. That is something that is more workable. So you have to know where they stand. So that is called social judgment theory. So that's one way by which you can frame the persuasion algorithm. Okay. Let's talk about this one. Which gray square is lighter? The one on the left or the one on the right? Send it on the chat. 1, 2, 3, go. Left or right? Which gray square is lighter? Left or right? Send the chat. Go, go, go. The one on the right, Celine Dean. The one on the right, Celine Lendel. Celine K, it's the same. Rudy says right. Jessa says right. Right, right. Okay, Erlyn says left. Maureen says the same. Actually, everyone, they are the same color. But because you are comparing it to a dark background, the one on the right seems a lot lighter. The contrast effect is increasing the perceived difference between things that are compared. So for example, you're not that good at English, but the other applicants are terrible at English. You will look so much better in comparison to them because you're the best one among the bunch, even if you are not that great. Like, for example, if you are dark-skinned and you have a black suit, it accentuates your skin color better. Huh? Diba? Power dressing. Toastmaster Joey, is that correct? That's the contrast effect. It's a psychological effect which transcends fashion. Okay, there is also the opposite effect. I want you to try the following: the assimilation effect. Do the white dots turn dark the more you look? Okay, try to look at this image. Try to move your eye around. Do you see dark dots? Yes or no? Send in the chat. 1, 2, 3, go. The more you look at the white dots, can you see dark dots? Diba? It gets infected almost. The assimilation effect is when you decrease the perceived difference between the things that are compared. So for example, you're good at English during the job interview, but everyone else is also good at English. They may lump you down together as, yeah, they're good at English, but what else do they have to offer? Okay, so you have to differentiate yourself, but at the same time, you bring yourself out from among the masses. What makes you unique? But the first activity is, what is your unique selling proposition? You don't want to blend in, you want to stand out, but in a good way. If you stand out because you said on your resume that you have excellent English skills, but then you speak in broken English, this person is a liar. Okay, so you have to be careful. The other one, take a look at this one. Did you see the sign? Why did you read it anyway, even though it says do not read this sign? Send your answer in the chat box. Why did you read it? Yeah. Toastmaster Esther says, if you want to look thin, just get near a fat person. Okay, but what if I am the fat person and I'm the only one around? So that's difficult if you have nobody to compare yourself to. Yeah. Why do we do things that are the opposite of what people tell us to do? Okay, it's too late. You read it already. I'll give you an example. A movie is banned because it has suggestive elements. This music is banned because it has a lot of provocative lyrics. Guess what people do? They watch it and they listen to it anyway. That's called the boomerang effect. Okay? People tend to do the opposite of what you want them to do because you're too forceful, because of the way you deliver your speech. Hindi ka na isa mo na yan. Kahit mo na. Ay, nanay ta ka? Sundon ta ka dayon? I'm not your mom. You're not my mom. You're not my dad. Why should I listen to you? Okay? So we have to be careful of the way we word things, the way we deliver it as well. One time, may aragahibik na estudyante. And so I was comforting that student. You know, it's okay because It's not your fault. And then gulpi may nagsulod ang student president. Nga gaibi ka. May mo kung mag-ibi-ibi. It had the boomerang effect. It had the opposite effect. I mean, instead of comforting the person because of the way it was delivered, it had the opposite effect. Di ba? Sige. Let's talk about elaboration likelihood this time. It's a different theory, but it's somehow connected. In the chat box, tell me, what do we mean by elaboration? Daniel says, it's like reverse psychology. Yes, reverse psychology. Hindi ka tulog ka sa hapon, ha? When you say that to a child, they are more likely to be anxious. Gusto ko na magampang sa pagbalay. Sige. Send your answers in the chat box. Elaboration method. What do we mean by elaborate? To explore, said Erlene. What else? To elaborate on something. To add more detail, to expound, yes, to present or explain in further detail, to explain further, correct. Explain more, to define. Thank you, everyone. So we are very participative, ano? Elaboration in the context of the elaboration likelihood model is how much mental effort you are willing to expound, to exert, just to listen to that person. Okay? If you access what we call the central root, then you have accessed that line of communication wherein your message is very important to that person. So I have to listen to what you say. I have to analyze what you are saying. But if you are saying something that's not that important to them, or they perceive it to not be as important to them, they will go through the peripheral route. Okay? Hi, ma'am, sir, try our product. I'm not really in the mood for that. That's the peripheral route. Okay? If you want to be a good persuader, you have to access the central route. And what affects the ability to access the central route are two things. The first is ability. The second is motivation. I have a short story for you. One time, I have a Toastmaster friend, Toastmaster Jeffrey. He's a development worker. Now, what he would do is, we have the poor families, so we have the mothers and the parents, and then the children. And there was this very cute activity. You would think that it was very cute. The mothers would write a letter of love to their children. And they would give it to their children, and it would be a very family-friendly kind of activity. Guess what happened? There was a crying woman in the comfort room. And then people were going to her, why, what happened? Why are you crying? Nagibig ka. O, Tagalog pala sila. Bakit ka umiiyak? You know why they were crying? The mother does not know how to read and write. Because they come from a poor community. And even though she would like to write a love letter to her daughter, she is not able to. That's the reality. If you are not able to understand the message, then why should it go through your central route? That's why we tend to remember memes better than our lessons, because it's easy to understand. It's within our ability. The next one is motivation. You are more likely to access the central route if you are able to motivate that person to listen to you. Okay? So for example, smoking is dangerous to your health. But if you're not a smoker, why should you care? But if you have, for example, a family member who is a frequent smoker, that message hits home because it's motivating to you, because it's important to you. So how do you access the central route? First is it has to be relevant to you, and you have to be personally involved. Why should I care about the environment? Why should I care about littering? But if you live near a river and you can smell the odors that are coming to your nose, when you open the window, instead of seeing the sunshine, you can smell the pollution. So yes, if you are not personally involved, you will not care as much. But if you tailor the message so that it is relevant to them, if it is important to them, you are more likely to convince them. Other one is accountability. You have to have people that will ask you, how are you going? How's your diet going? If you have nobody who will ask you about that, or you have nobody to hold you accountable, you won't care. You will eat as much junk food as you want. But if you are accountable, you cheated on me, siling ni diet. You cheated on me, siling ni diet mo. Okay, but if you are accountable, you are more likely to be persuaded. The other one is personal responsibility. Magbugtaw ka sa aga, ano yung mo responsibility? Tig-ang. Ano pa again? Maninlo, what else? If that is your responsibility, you will be more likely to be persuaded with messages in line with your responsibility. Nga, for example, ang imo naman yung responsibility is manglaba. Okay. Kung manglaba kaya, and you are more likely to be persuaded by a detergent commercial than somebody nga hindi kabalo manglaba. Okay? The other one is incongruent information. Okay. Siling ni nanay ko, amo ni dapat po. Na dapat, when you mix the coffee, ininit una bago ang coffee. Kaya ako naman niya, it's incongruent with how I tend to do it. Coffee comes first before the hot water. So if you have incongruent information, you tend to listen to a message to try and think, what's wrong with this argument? Okay, that's another way by which we can access the central root. The next is need for cognition. They're just people that want to know things. That's why we tend to look at the news because we want to be updated. Or if you are going to pursue a business field, you better read the newspaper and you better keep up to date with what's happening in the financial world. Because otherwise you wouldn't care because you don't need to know those things. So that's how we access the central root. Next is cognitive dissonance. It's another theory wherein, have you ever had a purchase wherein, I shouldn't have bought that. I bought a mouse. I bought a macro key mouse, and guess how much it costs? 4,100 pesos. Okay, this is the G604 mouse. And at first I was, I really want to be thrifty. However, I bought this very expensive mouse. There is the conflict between your attitude and your behavior. And this internal tension that you are feeling because your attitude does not match your behavior is called cognitive dissonance. I say that I am a good son, but I do not listen to my mother when she tells me to do something. So in order to relieve that cognitive dissonance, you have to give them ways to eliminate that dissonance, and that's through persuasion. For example, if you give them aversive consequences, they are more likely to listen to your message. I'll give you an example. If you want to live a healthy life, you have to stop smoking. Okay, so nobody cares. What's the consequence? If you do not stop smoking, your child, your mother, your sister, your brother, or your spouse may not have somebody to look up to anymore because you won't be there for them during their graduation. Something like that, something that is really important to them, and the consequence is big enough for them to care. That's how we can access the cognitive dissonance in their brain. We try to give them consonants. They also have to have freedom of choice. You don't force people to stop smoking, but you give them the choice. Pili ka. Mapatay ka, tapos wala na tatay mo bata. It's up to you. So if you force them, hindi naman but guess what? They will find a secret access to those cigarettes. Another one is external and internal justification. There are people outside or factors outside of you that will convince you to do something. Internal, if it's from yourself. So for example, the use of condoms. If you are going to tell them something like, it gives them STDs or what, that's external justification. But if you are a responsible person and you care for your partner, for example, you will wear protection. That's how we tend to frame messages. Okay? I will not be averse to these kinds of topics because they are also important to us. So that's cognitive dissonance. Another one is we tend to have selective exposure. Have you tried to buy something and just to convince yourself that it was a good purchase or your decision was good, you tend to follow Facebook groups that espouse that same opinion? Or you have selective attention. You don't think this problem exists because you don't know about it, because the people that you listen to tend to focus only on specific things. Selective interpretation is you only listen to news websites that you believe will give you your point of view. Otherwise, the others are just fake news, or the others are just, they're just liars, or they are run by people with ulterior motives. That's selective interpretation. And the other one is selective retention. We tend to remember things that support our own position. So in order to access this cognitive dissonance theory, we have to be aware of these things, and we try to provide the people with cognitive dissonance something to relieve the tension. That's how you persuade them. Okay? So these are a few, or the 3 theories of persuasion. It's not necessarily going to be a quiz wherein you have to fill in the blanks, but it's practical. You have to apply them to different situations. Okay? Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the modes of persuasion. Tell me if you've seen this before. By the way, allow me to share my audio. Please tell me if it's playing.
Happy new shoes to me, yeah. Happy new bags to me,
I'm sorry.
yeah. Happy new diapers, dresses, lipsticks, cellphone, phone. Happy shopping to me, yeah. Happy birthday, Lazada!
Shop like it's your birthday at Super!
Lazada birthday sale on March 27th. Lazada.
Oh, who was that? Send your answer in the chat. Who was that? Okay, that was Mimiya. Skirt. Yeah, she does not wear a skirt. She wears a skirt. All right. This is one of the modes of persuasion. We tend to listen to people we believe are credible, or people that we can trust, or people we believe represent us. This mode is called ethos. Ethos is establishing your credibility, or establishing yourself as somebody that people should listen to. We tend to listen to people that can convince us. And if you want to ace the job interview, you better be very good at persuading people that you are somebody worth listening to. Diba? That's ethos. I want you to think of other influencers that when they say something, you tend to listen to them. Kindly send your answer in the chat box. Who's your favorite influencer? Or somebody that you believe is trustworthy when they advertise something to you? So, send in the chat box. Roar, Selena Edward. Okay, how about the others? Your mother, Adonis. Yes, very authoritative. Yes, when you listen to your mother, yes, you have to listen. What about the others? Who is the influencer in your life? When they tell you to buy this product, you listen to them. Or when they tell you to do something, you do it. Because you trust that person, that person knows what's best. Another one is perhaps credibility doesn't have to be legitimate sometimes. People will just listen to people that they want to listen to. Mimiya isn't necessarily an expert in sales, but she is an expert at marketing herself. Okay, so that's it. That's ethos, when you establish yourself as an authority or a credible source. Let's talk about another pathway into accessing persuasion. Let's talk about this one. Please tell me if it's plain.
Si Dad.
Oh, Kevin, bakit hindi mo pa ina-accept ang friend request ko?
Break barriers for new beginnings.
Can somebody tell me what the ad is about? What's it about? What's the main conflict in the story? Yeah, it's about acceptance. Yes, Lendell, that's correct. But what's the conflict? Why did the son not want to accept his father on Facebook first? Why? Why do you think so? What's the conflict there? And how was it resolved? Toastmaster Ether, I believe you were tearing up a bit. What happened? What was the story about?
Napuli ko actually.
Napuling di ay ka. Sige. Lendell.
I think,
yes,
okay.
Toastmaster Ether.
Yes, Lendell here shared something in the chat box. He said, this hesitance on showing his reality to his father, social media became his alter self. That's amazing.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Lendell.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ether. Thank you, Lendell. Yes, we tend to show people different faces. But this shows us that if we just take that step, then we can make that connection. You know what the father said? The son said, Dad, in-accept na kita. And the father said, anak, ako din. You know what that meant? It doesn't mean that the father accepted the son on Facebook. He accepted that his son is gay. And that's a powerful message. And guess what? It's an ad for Smart. So imagine a corporation like Smart accessing our emotions in order to convince us that their product is important, or it's something that they need, or it's something that people need. Yes, we have here naka-connect. Correct. This is what we call pathos. What is pathos all about? It's all about accessing the emotional core. If you want to frame a message, you don't need to just have ethos or credibility. You also need to access the emotion, the emotional core of the person you're trying to persuade. Let's have another one. This is another mode of persuasion.
Ngayon na tag-ulan, madami ang sipunin, maiiwasan yan. Vitamin C helps make it stop. Your kid needs tibay, araw-araw. Punuin muli. Micronutrient deficiency, labanan natin pag may tibay, araw-araw. Kaya natin po. Micronutrient deficiency, labanan natin pag may bear brand, araw-araw. Kaya natin to.
Sige. What was it trying to convince us about? To buy Bear Brand, yes. But how did it try to convince us to buy Bear Brand? What did it use? Did it use emotion? Did it use credibility? It used a jingle. Yes, Kay, that's correct. What else? What else did it use? Micronutrient deficiency. Fight micronutrient deficiency. It's using this thing called micronutrient deficiency, and it's connected to the cognitive aspect. Yes, Miss Joan, that's correct. It's about connecting to your brain or your reasoning or your logic. This is known as logos. This is when the speaker uses facts, figures, statistics to appeal to your mind in order to convince you to listen to them. So, what are the three modes of persuasion? We have ethos, pathos, and logos. If you want to be an effective persuader, you have to access your credibility, you establish your credibility, you access the people's emotions, and you back it up with facts and figures. That's how you make an effective message. And lastly, let's talk about some tips for practical persuasion. I used to be the training and development in charge of an advertising company. Oh, by the way, I will stop sharing. And I would like to see everyone's faces. Please turn on your cameras, and I would like to talk to you personally. All right, we have people here. And again, may linyada kami sa mga manughiwit. Sa mga wala gaon sa camera, even though they have the capability to do so, ari inyo nga application. Gisi. Wala na, di ba? Now, what is scratch paper actually? All right, so I would like to speak to you personally. Notice that when I'm speaking to you and I'm trying to persuade you, I look at the camera. This is because the eyes are the windows to the soul. You have to establish eye contact. Even if it's virtual, you look at the camera lens. It feels unnatural, but it will give you bonus points. The other one is you need to be able to access your sense of humor. As early as now, you try and back up a lot of the mga backup jokes. Like for example, knock knock, knock knock, Miss April. Miss April, are you there? Sige, wala garo audio, Miss April.
Yes.
Knock knock, Miss April.
I'm sorry, the sound.
Knock knock, who's there, Miss April? Knock knock.
Yeah.
Sige na lang kami. Who's there? This magamba kami kuan. Sige, how about Toastmaster Ether? Let's try. Toastmaster Ether, kita bet. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Imo.
Imo who?
Di mo alam dahil sa'yo, ako'y di makakain. Di rin makatulog buhat ng iyong lapuin. Something like that. Even mga jokes nga do pwede mo lang sulit-suliton or something that you can repeat. If you have a backlog of jokes, it's the starting point for humor. Another one, Toastmaster Esther this time. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Koala.
Koala who?
Paano ang puso ko? Koala ka. Mangangarap lang bang nag-iisa? Ang makapiling ka ay langit sa akin dahil sa pagsuyong naghari sa atin. Alright. DTM Melinda, knock knock.
Knock knock. Sorry, who's there? Who's there?
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Saging Banana Q.
Saging Banana Q who?
Akala ko ikaw ay saging. Banana Q sa aking panin. Top jokes like that.
That's my favorite.
Yes, namihan si DTM Melinda sa mga saging. By the way, my question for you, you know our students. What is the fish na pinakabasa? Ano nga isda ang pinakabasa? The wettest fish. The wettest fish is actually catfish. Hito. Hito ako. Basang-basa sa ulan. Humor. You have to try and be humorous. Even something like that. Even mga corny jokes, they have to start somewhere. Okay, so eye contact, humor, and the other one, in order to be persuasive, you have to be confident. Okay? When I speak, I look at the camera, and I have no second guesses about myself. I know that I am someone you need for your company. If you have that confidence, like Lendel is very confident, Adonis is very confident, by the power vested upon me by the elder gods, I bless your next application because you showed your camera and you are going to be hired. Diba? So these are practical tips. Some things you really have to learn the hard way. You have to try a lot of applications. You have to apply at a lot of jobs. But if you have these tips at persuading people, if I were the person interviewing you, you would be hired. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me and being persuaded to turn on your cameras and being persuaded to stay with me today. Sana all nag-stay. So without further ado, I give you back to Toastmaster Ethos. Good morning.
Thank you, Toastmaster Karl. Thank you for leading us into the unique selling proposition, for teaching us the meaning of persuasion, its principles, and its influence, and of course, the ethos, pathos, and logos. And most especially for giving us an opportunity to sell ourselves using our uniqueness. I too have learned a lot from you and from your time and enjoyed the humor you added to your presentation. So what about you guys? What did you enjoy about TM Karl's session? Please do chat them in the chat box. Let's go. Let's hear from you guys. Okay. Let's try to ask someone to turn on their microphones and share to us what they loved about TM Karl's session. Maybe we can hear from Lendi Kabile. Hello, Lendi. I guess not. Maybe Edward Daven Genova. Edward, what do you love about Trainer Karl's session?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
I really like this itself because it's very funny. In a way, he can deliver very well. And I also like the topic discussed. I really like the modes of persuasion. There's very very mind, and where there are many variables we consider in persuasion process. That could be all.
Thank you for sharing that. Indeed, TM Karl's session was full of jokes, fun, and it was very relevant to our time today. And of course, for you guys who will be having interviews in the future. So thank you so much. And after that successful workshop, we are now ready to give all our ears to you guys if you have any questions for TM Karl and for anything related to his session. So you guys can send questions in the chat box and we will read them and of course answer them to you. So if you do have any questions, please do raise them now. Or you can also raise your hand if you want to read it or say it out yourselves. So do we have any question, guys? While waiting, how are you, TM Karl?
I have another joke, TM Ethos, if you want.
Okay, that's fine. What about, is TM Rafi here? I heard a lot of you guys had some fangirling, fanboying moments over TM Rafi yesterday. TM Rafi, are you there? I guess not. Okay. Okay, how are you today, TM Esther?
Oh, I'm fine. I enjoyed the presentations of both Toastmasters Juim and Toastmaster Karl.
Great, thank you so much, Toastmaster Esther. I too really enjoyed Toastmaster Karl's session. I was always laughing all throughout, and it was the ambience while learning, laughing while learning. It's just a great combination. So thank you so much once again, Toastmaster Karl, and for Toastmaster Esther for sharing to us how she felt. Now, we still do not have any. Okay, we have here one question raised by Kay Louise. She asked, what should you do if you're asked about your USP in an interview and you have no idea what it is?
Hello, Kay. Good morning. Kay, can I see you? Can you please see your face? Or at least listen to your voice? Okay, are you here? Igalaw ang bus, okay. Kapag nandito
Yes,
ka.
sir.
Hi, welcome sa Mundong Ibabaw. Hi, Kay. So your question is about your USP. Okay. When you're being interviewed, they will not be as specific to ask you for your USP, but they will ask you what makes you unique. If you have no idea what it is, I'll tell you something that only you have. You're you. You have something that nobody else has. What I would like for you to do is to do some soul searching. What have I done in my life that nobody else has done? Because everyone is unique. Don't tell me that we are similar in some ways, yes, but there is always that one thing that will set you apart. Perhaps if that particular thing that you think is not related to the job, it's actually there. Like for example, I collect anime figures. Okay, that's not necessarily a useful job skill, but I am skilled at researching the different figures, the different prices, and what that has to do with the job. You have to think of something you can do that nobody else does better than you. So that's my challenge for you. Do some soul searching, because once the people ask you what makes you unique, you will have the answer.
Thank you, Toastmaster Karl, for that answer, and for Kay for raising that question. Of course, not only will this question help Kay, but of course everyone in this Zoom meeting, including us trainers as well. In one word, what we got from Toastmaster Karl's answer is soul searching. So everyone, let us have some soul searching and know ourselves better. And when we do know ourselves better, that is when we will gain our confidence and know ourselves. Thank you so much. Now we have here another question raised from Villanueva Anne. She asked, can you give some tips on how to overcome shyness during an interview? Because basically I am a shy person.
Hi, Anne. May I see your face or hear your voice? Anne Monique? Anne? Igalaw ang aking tumbler kapag nandito ka. Charot lang.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Hello, Anne. Good morning. Your question is about overcoming shyness. Do you
Yes, sir.
consider yourself an introverted person?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I am also introverted, very introverted. There's nobody I know that's more introverted than me. But guess what? I adapt what I call a stage persona. Once the lights are on, the switch flips. I'm a different person. Because your stage persona is different from who you are as a person. I am very witty. I am very relatable. But if I'm on my own, I love it so much because I can do whatever I want. But when I'm with other people, I feel anxious. In order to push through that, you have to practice. And what better way to practice than joining Barangay Toastmasters Club that joins us every 7 p.m. Yeah, every 7 p.m. on Thursday nights, we meet and we practice the art of communication. I joined Toastmasters in 2017 because of what? Therapy. Why? Why therapy, sir? I was diagnosed with clinical depression and I went to a psychiatrist. And you know what the psychiatrist said? Yes, the meds will help, but you also need to establish personal connections with other people. And one way to do that is you have to go out of your way to establish those connections. So I joined Toastmasters. I developed this skill to speak in public, even though I was very shy, very introverted. It takes practice. And I will tell you this, Anne, even though you think you're not that confident now, if you stick to it and you are very consistent, you will improve. I guarantee it. Thank you, Anne.
Sir, thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm very generous with my I love yous. So I love you too, Anne. Toastmaster Ether?
Thank you to the both of you. You did very great. And of course, overcoming our shyness can be at times difficult, but it can be something that we can all overcome. So thank you so much for that question. Now we have another one from Lendell who asked, Do you have tips on how to neutralize or balance the cognitive dissonance, attitude versus behavior?
Okay. So, hi, Lendell. May I see your face and hear your voice?
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Lendell. You are very much a Unorian because of your background. All right, so Lendell, your question is about how to neutralize or balance the cognitive dissonance. A while ago, we talked about aversive consequences, freedom of choice, and external and internal justification. But allow me to simplify it. First of all, it has to come from you yourself. It's a very personal thing. Cognitive dissonance has to come from the person themselves. If that person does very contradictory things, you can try to help that person. But if it doesn't come from the person themselves, well, it's up to them. The other one is you need to make sure that the way you phrase it or the way you tailor your message it's in such a way that the person will not be offended. They have the ability to understand what you're trying to say, and they will be motivated to do it. It's a process that is not easier said than done. But Lendell, I know that if you stick to it and you practice these persuasion tips, it's something that you have to learn by doing. And I know that you will also find a way to whatever this particular situation is that you're referring to. You will find a way to approach the situation in a way that you will not come off as having the boomerang effect, wherein you are too forceful and the person does the opposite of what you say, but it's in the central route, in the middle ground, wherein you will not come off as too harsh or too lenient. That's it. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Lendell, for that question. A round of applause for him, please. I guess Lendell said he loves you as well, Toastmaster Karl.
Exactly.
Now we have another one from Dean Villian, who asked, if ever you cannot persuade someone, what will you do? Are there any ways, Toastmaster Karl?
Thank you, Toastmaster Ether, and thank you, Dean. Dean, may I see your face and hear your voice?
Sir, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Dean.
I'm sorry, sir, my camera is having some difficulties, sir.
That's okay. At least I can hear your mellifluous voice. So, you want to persuade someone. We talked about the latitude of rejection. In the theory of social judgment theory, we call them anchors. If that person is so far to the left, closer to the latitude of rejection, we saw that the latitude of rejection actually expands. In other words, if that person holds this particular belief or behavior to such a core degree, that you call it a core belief. And the only way to convince that person is to either give them an alternative that is least objectionable to them. Okay, I will not be able to convince you to be more right-handed because you're left-handed, but you can at least try to do more right-handed things, something like that. You give them an option because freedom of choice is very important to persuasion. You do not persuade people by forcing them to do something, but you just tell them that the door is always open and you can come in whenever you like. The choice has to come from them. If you give them options, you may find that one option that is least objectionable to them. At least you are getting somewhere. At least there is some movement to the right. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, sir.
Wow, amazing. Another great question from you guys. And Toastmaster Karl is getting those answers right off the bat, and great job. I'm speechless now. But we have another fun question from Adonis, who asked, since mapahugot ka, sir, what if the interviewer is your ex? What best tips can you suggest?
The best tip I can suggest? Hi, Adonis, may I see your face? Hello, Adonis. Have you ever been in this situation before? All right, so hi, Adonis. So What if the interviewer is your ex? The best tip you can suggest? Well, I believe my ex is very much familiar with my tip. But in that case, if the interviewer is your ex, you have to distance yourself. There is Carl, the ex-boyfriend, and there is Carl, the applicant. If you are an applicant, you have to be professional. Before, I used to be the College of Arts, Sciences, and Education governor, and my secretary was my ex. And it was not a very pleasant situation because she would refuse to do letters because I broke up with her. But we have to be professional. So if, for example, they will bring up things that are not related to the topic or not related to the job, you can just ignore that. But if it's related to the job, then you just stick to that. There is a distance between who you are as an ex and who you are as an applicant. I love you, Adonis.
Thank you for that, Toastmaster Carl. Of course, to anyone, if ever this situation comes to our situation, or comes to us personally, we should always remember to distance ourselves, because when we are in an interview, we are not the ex that we are. We're not applying to be the ex, or we're not applying as the ex. We are applying as the person that we are and to whom we can qualify. So thank you so much. Now let's go on to the next question, which is from Lendell again. Does having a stage persona hinder you from showing your true personality?
Hi, may I see your face again, Lendell? I'd like to see your face. Look into my eyes, Lendell. You're mine now. Shut up. Okay, Lendell. Does having a stage persona hinder you from showing your true personality? I would argue that it's still part of my personality. This very ostentatious or this very showy person is still part of me. It's just usually hidden. So it's not a different person. It's like the moon. It rotates, okay? Or it's just like the earth. It also rotates. O, diba? Parehas kay Heaven. Ano to gani? May rotations around the sun. So you can also rotate. It's that side of you that is usually hidden. But if you show it, it's still you. That's what I would say. Anak, I love you no kay Lendell. So I love you, Lendell. This is my parenthesis 1.
Thank you so much once again for that question and for that answer, of course. Now we have one, actually two. We will try to answer 2 questions in one bat. So we have one from Miss Joanne who asked, when do you think one should stop persuading somebody? And we also have another one from Mary Rose who asked, what's the extent of persuasion?
Hi, thank you, Toastmaster Ether. So we have 2 questions at a time, no? Basig masalaan tabla 2 timer because we have 2 questions at a time. Let's do it one at a time. Toastmaster Ether, may I see Miss Joanne? Miss Joanne, are you here? May I see your lovely face and hear your lovely voice? Miss Joanne, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Miss Joanne. So your question is about when you should stop persuading somebody. Persuasion is a 2-way street. There has to be at least some movement. If, for example, you believe that you have done your part and there is no movement, just like what we've seen a while ago, the social judgment theory, hindi siya mag-isdog. Try lang gid kuya. I-reject ko ginayabis ka. Ano pa nang balon mo? Even if you give them alternatives or options, if you have exhausted all of the options and it's no longer productive, you have to find an alternative way. Maybe that's not the right person to talk to. Maybe there is an alternative route. Maybe we can find a mediator. If we have exerted all of the efforts necessary, maybe it's time to move on. Hello? Hello? Move on? Sana all. Thank you, Miss Joanne. I love you.
Thank you.
We have Mary Rose. Miss Mary Rose, can I see your face? Mary Rose.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Hi. Miss Mary Rose, You're with us? Hi.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Hi, Mary Rose. Your question is, what's the extent of persuasion? By extent, what do you mean, Nangga?
Like, limitation, sir. Siguro same kay Miss John.
Okay, I see. So your question is, how far should you go with persuasion? Well,
Yes,
first
sir.
of all, persuasion, just like we talked about, it needs to have the element of freedom of choice. We never persuade people to do something that they do not want to do. But persuasion is the way by which the person can decide for themselves. The art of persuasion is presenting all of the possible options, all of the possible advantages and disadvantages, making sure that they have the full picture, and the person has to decide for themselves. We do not use persuasion to manipulate people, because I have family members before, ang akong nga lola, we have a relative who's a lawyer, and then he manipulated the paperwork in such a way that if we would renovate the house of my grandparent, it would go to that family. Diba? That's manipulation. Persuading the person through very bad means. Because my Lola trusted this relative of mine because he was part of the family. But he abused that power, that ethos, in order to pursue really terrible things. So if we are an ethical persuader, we would never use it for evil. We would only use it for good. Okay. Does that answer your question, Miss Mary Rose?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, thank you as well. I have a cousin named Mary Rose. She lives in the United States. Wala lang, share ko lang.
Thank you for that question and answer portion. Because we are running out of time, we should proceed now to the next portion of our program. And of course, we also have no more questions running through our chat box. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to post them there in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them later on in our next part of the program. One of the centered thoughts from all these questions is that persuasion, of course, comes from all our freedom of choices. So we shouldn't use persuasion to do a motivation that is something different and is manipulating. So we have to keep that in mind. Thank you for these questions, and for Toastmaster Karl for answering all of those. Medyo hard yung mga questions now, but he did answer them quite well. And it does help us reflect. I'm pretty sure this session didn't only help the UNOR students and faculty, but as well has taught us trainers, and maybe Toastmaster Karl also learned something and gained something from his own session. So it's beautiful how all of us are learning and growing together. As we are reaching the moment when our stomach is starting to rumble, it is now time to take a longer break and enjoy our lunch break. But before leaving, please be reminded to be back before 1 p.m. We will have an assembly at exactly 1 p.m. And without taking much of your time any further, let us now break up to enjoy our lunch. Once again, sana masarap ang maging ulam ninyo, and we'll be back naman later on. So enjoy your break, guys.
Kung masarap ang ulam ninyo,
Thank you.
masarap naman kayo. Charot.
Yeah.
See you at 1 p.m.
See you later, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Congratulations, Karl.
Thank you, TTM.
Congratulations, and also to our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you.
Yes, I
Thank
agree.
you.
Congratulations, Toastmaster Ether.
Bye-bye.